Hello, everyone. It's great to see you here. Hello, Raquel. It's great to have you back for a new
Hello,
talk,
Hans.
this time on
Thank you.
neurodiversity and TRE. I would like if everyone could write in the chat just where you are located, a little bit about your experience with TRE. Also, anything about your interest for this topic would be interesting as well. Also, feel free to write questions and so on in the chat throughout the talk. Welcome, Raquel. You can start your screen share if you like, and we will move on to the talk. Let's check in the chat what you're writing. Daniela in Italy. Hello, everyone. Raquel, yeah, you will present yourself. Mike is in Toronto. He's done a few sessions. Elizabeth is based in Paris and is a TRE provider. Hello, Elizabeth. Welcome.
Let me share my screen. I always get a little lost.
Yeah. Okay. There we are. Great.
Okay. So what do you see? Just the presentation, or do you see something else?
Now I see the presentation and nothing else.
Okay, great. Hello, and thank you for coming here to this second presentation of TRE and neurodiversity. So this talk is about unlocking potential for neurodiverse people using TRE. So basically, it's what I've been doing, not necessarily always on purpose, but it ended up like this. So it's really great. So I don't know for what reason. Okay, so here it goes. So the goal of this talk is to understand how TRE can help with neurodiversity challenges. And why? Because by enhancing self-awareness, we can empower personal growth. And I'm kind of, okay, I was struggling with how to pass the slides, but all is good now. So in this workshop, we will see the neurodiversity definition, kind of, because there are many. The main neurodivergent challenges, and also some real life case stories. Okay, and we will also learn about TRE in neurodiversity stress management, how to adapt the TRE practice, and how to incorporate TRE into daily life. So I'm Raquel Devillé. I'm located in the French-speaking south of Belgium in a town called Virton, and I'm Portuguese from close to Lisbon, from a village called Ericeira. Not a village, but a town nowadays. And I'm a TRE provider and also a therapist. And I used to be HR manager, and I have occupational health and ergonomics specialization. And since I've founded Recentrez-vous, that it's my practice here in Virton, I've helped more than 30 people with many neurodivergent clients manage anxiety, pain, and burnout through personalized methods but using a lot of TRE, because I tend to start with TRE. So as I've been working with many neurodivergent clients, I ended up getting a lot of information and studying the subject of neurodiversity, because I found that I'm neurodivergent. When I found this in 2018, and since then I've been studying the subject a lot for me, but also for my kids. So it started with my kids, actually. So I wrote a book about neurodiversity, mainly in women. It's called It's Not Your Period, because as most women know, from time to time, when we get a little stressed, one of the things that we hear often, it's perhaps it's your period. And sometimes it's not your period, and it's not the menopause either. So therefore, the title of the book. So the book is available both in English and French for Kindle and paperback on Amazon for the moment. So we are starting with the neurodiversity definition. So this is a definition, this is my favorite one. It's the whole of human mental or psychological, neurological structures or behaviors seen as not problematic, but as alternate acceptable forms of human biology. So we tend to see neurodiversity or neurodivergence, or the different forms of it, as a problem, as sometimes mental health illness, as there are it's often perceived as something negative. However, much like biodiversity, we are all different. We all have different faces, and we also have different brains. So neurodiversity, it's all of these different ways of functioning that we all have as human beings. And this is my favorite definition, exactly because it's so it sees it as a positive thing, not as a problem, but just a way of being. But neurodiversity often comes with certain challenges that are sensory sensitivities that can be, for example, discomfort from lights, noises, textures. It can be, these sensory sensitivities can be from any kind of sense. So basically, also sometimes perhaps smells or tastes, there are things that just cause discomfort. And this discomfort and this sensitivity can be very high, and therefore it can provoke, kind of overwhelm. There might also be communication difficulties, like struggle expressing thoughts and understanding social cues. And there are also executive functioning issues, like challenges with planning, organizing, and completing tasks. So these challenges are much like neurodiversity. They can be different for everybody, and they can be stronger for some persons and for some people, and less strong for others. And it can be very different, like in a kind of a cloud with different colors, and we are all there having different challenges, as well as having different, let's call them superpowers, because it can also be a kind of a superpower. So these challenges, they create often an extra layer of stress, and it can be, it can express by social anxiety, so a higher anxiety in social situations that might lead to avoidance. Emotional regulation challenges as well. So having a hard time managing emotions and intense reactions. And it can also be rigid thinking patterns. And this can create stress from adapting to changes or to new information. Again, much like the challenges before, this is different from one person to the other, and it can express in a different way from one person to the other. And this might lead to some kind of stigma and misunderstanding that comes often with the different kinds of neurodiversity. So neurodiversity here, I'm just giving some examples. It can be autism, ADHD, dyslexia, dyscalculia. Some names I use a lot in French, and I'm not sure how we say it in English. So dyscalculia, it's dyscalculie in French. It's similar to dyslexia, but instead for writing, it's related with maths. And there are different something DYS, and so these are all forms of neurodiversity. Another form of neurodiversity that I'm not sure of the name in English, we call it high potential in French, directly translated. It's a form of giftedness that can also be kind of problematic, but this one has a kind of positive discrimination. Because often people, they have a high IQ, they are very intelligent, so this is perceived as something really good because they have good results in school, but it comes with a lot of also problems. And but as it's perceived as something very positive, sometimes it's even worse to deal with because these people are just seen as someone that are with like someone privileged, because it's someone that has a high IQ, but these are often people that are always inside their heads and analyzing everything all the time. And there are other forms of neurodiversity like OCD and many others. I'm talking about these ones because it's the ones that I see the most. So going back to the challenges. So we have the stigma and misunderstanding and discrimination due to societal misconceptions, co-occurring conditions. So with the neurodiversity, there might be the presence of other issues like depression or anxiety, or also different forms of neurodiversity that go along together. So, for example, now we start to talk about how autism and ADHD can go along in the same person. And recently, one excluded the other, or it was perceived like one excluding the other. However, now we know that they can be together, and they can be co-occurring neurodiversity conditions. Another thing, it's that it was already tackled in another slide. It's difficult with transition. So along with the difficulty with changes, with transitions as well. So everything that it's related to changes in routine or unexpected events can also create an extra layer of stress. And then there is fatigue from managing sensory overload and social interactions. With this fatigue, often, at least in women, it happens a lot, there is also masking. And masking can be something that can be very positive if well managed, but it can also be very hard to deal with, and it can lead to burnout and other problems. And this masking comes from managing all the sensory overload, social interactions, and trying to fit in. And it occurs a lot in women. perhaps in men too, but well, I've seen it more and more in women than men. So case stories. With my clients, I realized that neurodiversity stress decreased with TRE. So this happened kind of, well, it just happened. I had a clients coming for different reasons, often stress, anxiety, and a lot of chronic pain. And working with these clients, while working with them, I realized that they were somewhere in this neurodiversity cloud. And a part of the stress came from this neurodiversity extra layers of stress. And that's why TRE is interesting, because it's so powerful in decreasing stress. So one of my clients that is neurodivergent, she's a 47-year-old woman, and so she has dyslexia and dyscalculia, and she came for anxiety and a lot of stress and also trauma. But she realized that with TRE, during tremoring, that after she slept better, and also her anxiety reduced. And she also started to feel more confident about herself. So at the moment when she came, she had changed work, so she was in a new working environment, and she was having self-confidence issues with her colleagues and with everything. Because of her neurodiversity, she's kind of a slow learner. And because she's a slow learner, she needs time and she needs a certain structure in order to be able to cope with the work she has to do. Once she gets hold of it, she's really good. She's highly organized and she's very competent, but she needs time to get there. And this time to get there was stressing her, because, well, it's not a very high-paced working environment, but she felt a little bit, okay, so I need my time, and I'm not sure these people will have the patience to work, to wait for me to learn. But she ended up having confidence in herself, and she became also more assertive. And a very interesting side effect of these TRE sessions that she did with me was that her improved driving in stressful conditions. So here where I am in Belgium, it snows. And for people like me, for example, I'm Portuguese. So when I got here, it was very stressful to drive with snow. And there are many people that actually stress when they have to drive with snow and kind of freeze because it's perceived as being very dangerous. And she froze. So when it snowed, she would actually freeze and she wouldn't be able to drive. And after doing TRE, she started driving with snow with no problems. Even when the roads are not clean, she could drive in those conditions. And this came after TRE. So in one of the sessions, this client of mine brought her son that has the same kind of neurodiversity as the mother. And at the time, he was 15 years old. And he was so he struggles with school. He was at that time 1 year late in school. And besides that 1 year late, he was struggling at school with results and so on. He had bad results, and it was very hard for him to deal with school. So he came with the mother, I told her, bring him on and let's see what happens. And he came to tremor, and I was paying attention to him. He was tremoring, and because it was easy for him to tremor, I told him, okay, so now I'm going to move on to your mother and like pay a little bit more attention to her while you are tremoring here. So, but they were side by side. It's just I stopped talking with him to talk a little bit more with the mother, and to help her with her process. And during this, he fell asleep. So he fell asleep while tremoring. It was very interesting. So he was asleep, but he kept tremoring very slightly, but I could see tremors. So we let him sleep. I moved on with the session with the mother. She tremored as well. And at the end of the session, we woke him up and did some grounding. And when he got up, just before leaving, he started talking about his maths exam. He was going to have a maths exam. And he was like, yeah, so I'm going to have this exam and it's about this and so on. And he started explaining what it was about and what he was struggling with, but well, it would be okay. And this boy, he didn't speak much. So it was kind of surprising because he actually talked a lot and talked. It was like a regular conversation of a boy that talks about school. But this was something very different for him because first he wouldn't talk and he wouldn't talk about school. He wouldn't talk with a stranger, that was me, like that. And he was just like talking about it like in a normal social conversation about school. So after the session, the mother told me that he actually improved, he had improved energy levels, and also his socially interaction improved a lot. So he became more empathetic. He started talking with his mother a lot, and having a different behavior, more social at home. At school, his performance really improved as well. And he got a really good grade in that maths test. So he moved from negative points to a 16 in 20 for this particular exam. And then his French skills that were really low suddenly improved a lot as well. And he the teacher said that he wasn't late anymore, so he got to his regular level for his age, and besides that, his results were really good. And this, of course, induced some more self-confidence as well as maturity. So there was really a shift in his behavior besides the improved academic performance. So this is another, I need to do 5-second break to drink. This case study, it was a client of mine, a woman, 41 at the time we worked together. And she was autistic, gifted, and she had a story of abuse during childhood, as well as as well as adult life trauma. So she basically came to me. We did some TRE sessions, and there was a lot of emotional release. And after that, she realized that she would cry less. So she used to cry a lot and to hold, and this would make her to hold emotions, and this would make her cry. And after TRE, she felt release and less crying. Also, she became more calm and focused, and this led to some lifestyle changes, namely with her eating habits. And after some sessions, she started to get out of, I don't know how to say this, to get out more. So she was able to contact a friend and to go eat with a friend, and to do then some activities with other friends, people that she didn't talk with for a long time. And she regained the ability to laugh again. And she felt less triggered in social situations. So in social environments where she would often feel very triggered and she would retreat, it became easier for her to deal with these social situations. This was this 13-year-old boy was my first neurodivergent client that I realized that was neurodivergent. So when he came, the mother explained that he was autistic as well as gifted, and he had chronic migraines since he was a toddler, and he could express that he had migraines. So he came together with the mother as well. The mother came for chronic pain. And again, I told her, so bring your son and we will see what happens. And with tremoring, so for him, it was a lot of fun to tremor during TRE. And he would tremor, he had this very big movements, and he would tremor a lot, his whole body. And he had a lot of fun with it. And very fast, his migraines reduced. They became less strong and less frequent as well. And he also realized, so he started to, so he could feel when the migraine was approaching, and he could tremor just to avoid it. And he started doing this on his own. So he would feel if the migraine was approaching, often at the end of the day, due to sensory overload from school. And he would tremor, and the migraine would not show up or would be weaker than previously to the TRE sessions. This led to a new ability to practice sports. So this boy really enjoyed riding his bicycle. So he got back to riding bicycle a lot, as well as swimming. And nowadays, for like some years now, he enjoys a painless teenager lifestyle with almost no migraines. So besides these case studies that I just presented, I have some testimonials from clients, also neurodivergent, that had interesting results. This one, Tina, she did some TRE sessions with me. She had a lot of fun also doing TRE. So I often have these people that come to Tremor and they have fun. They experience laughter and fun because it's so different to feel the body like that. So she had a sugar addiction, and since the first TRE session we've done together, the sugar cravings disappeared. So she realized that it was related to stress, sensory overload, and that TRE session allowed her to quit sugar with no effort. It was a very surprising result. That's why it's here. So this is Christine. Christine, she has ADHD as well, and she struggled with anxiety her whole life. And working together, she realized that actually anxiety could be reduced and even disappear. And this happened again with TRE. So how does it work? Stress relief, consistent practice of TRE exercises for ongoing stress and anxiety management. So this can be done, as you all know, in the way we know with the exercises or not, just doing TRE. And this can be adapted to the person that it's in front of us. So this is what I always do. So I have the framework of TRE, but I always adapt to the person that it's in front of me. So here it is. This adaptation, so when we have the stress and anxiety management, for me, it really varies the amount of stress from one person to the other. So I adapt to this stress and anxiety management. And then there's another adaptation of TRE that it's related to modifying the exercises if necessary, and create personalized TRE sessions to make the practice easier for the person that's for the client. So for me, there are different adaptations and modifications, either for the result for a certain problem that it's presented, or just for the exercises. And then there is the incorporation of TRE into daily life. So again, this can be different from one person to the other. What I notice a lot with neurodivergent people, and I notice this with myself, and this happens a lot with ADHD, people, they have a hard time having a routine, and they get easily bored, and they do struggle to do things for a long time. So what I often do, it's to try and integrate TRE, not for a long time, but a little bit every day, to help the body release from the daily stress. So what can you do if you'd like to develop more about TRE for neurodiversity, or TRE in general? You can enroll in the next TRE training. There is one starting very, very soon. If you'd like to know more about more case studies and how I incorporate TRE with my clients, you can get the book, It's Not Your Period. And if you'd like to discuss further, you can also book a free call with me. So this is my website, and you can check it out. And if you'd like to discuss more. However, the next TRE training, I'll be joining Hans, assisting him. So this is something that you can do if you also like to learn more about TRE and TRE for neurodiversity, as well as adapting and incorporating into daily life. So now it's time for Q&A. If you have questions, you can place them in the chat. I see there are some messages that I haven't read, or you can just open your microphone and ask them. Yeah, so I'm reading the questions. Is everybody there?
So Raquel, we have 22 participants.
Oh,
I can read the questions for you if you like. So Mila asked,
okay. So,
this is regarded to one of the case studies, whether he did
okay, so
continue to do TRE on his own. So I'm not sure which of these ones was related to. Maybe you could clarify, Mila, which one you were interested in.
Hi, Raquel. Thank you so much for your time. This has been fascinating.
Thank
Amazing
you.
results. Thank you. So the first young boy that you were talking about, you talked about two, but it was the first one you were saying he had all these positive results. And I was curious if that happened after the first session, or do you have ongoing sessions with him? Does he practice on his own? And I'm sure the results vary by person in all of your case studies, but it
So the second boy, he did 5 sessions, okay? And it was really cool. But the thing is, with kids, I'm saying kids, but yeah, let's say just until 18, it goes really fast. So that first boy, he did 1 session. One. So yeah, so it's really strange. But every time I worked with kids or bigger, smaller, it goes really, really fast. And this happened after that session. So when he woke up and he started talking, it was a little bit surprising. So we were like, me and the mother were like, okay, because he was talking, but very eloquent. So he was talking and he was eloquent, and he suddenly started to explain that he was going to have a maths exam, and he was struggling with maths at the time. But he started talking and explaining, and everything made a lot of sense. So he was explaining it correctly, much like as he fell asleep, and when he woke up, he was kind of a different boy, like something happened. Like there was a block there that disappeared. So it was 1 session, and not even a long one. So yeah.
Yeah, we could add, of course, as Mila said, that all trajectories of change and improvement can be very individual, and also for different symptoms and so on, it can vary. So, and this is in general with most people, but for sure with kids, they are often more plastic, neurological speaking, and sometimes some change can be very rapid. Okay, and then yeah, Pat has the same type of comment. Why? Wow, by only 1 session he improved so much. Yes, so it is possible, but it's not something we should expect or market, I think, sort of fast change, but it can happen.
So about the sessions, I don't do less than 4 sessions. Okay, so this thing with the kids happened because I invited him to come with the mother, but the mother was doing sessions. So for me, it's important to do at least 4, so there is kind of a result, and also if there is some kind of thing that comes out, and if the person, so some kind of emotions that the person is not expecting between TRE sessions, with 4, I know like how to tell the person how to manage it, and how to help the person manage emotions and things that might come up. So this 1 session thing, it happened like, okay, it happened because I told the mother, so bring your kid and we will see what happens. So, and every time I worked with the kids, because I don't often work with kids, so I don't work with kids. And when I do, it's because they come with the mother for some reason. And I just say, okay, like a bonus, like bring your kid and we will see what happens. And this happened with 1 session, but it does not mean that everybody will have this result. So this is here because it was a particularly good one, as well as I had with another kid with chronic pain, also a neurodivergent girl. It was really fast, but she kept on practicing, but the first session often is kind of magic for me. So
Shelley has a question as well. Yeah, okay, so you answered some of that. How often did you see some of these clients? And how often did some of your clients tremor on their own? So especially this last one, maybe you could comment on if you have any information about their tremoring at home.
So there was the one client that was autistic with a history of abuse. She practiced a lot on her own, and because it really helped her to self-regulate, because she had like overwhelming emotions very, very often. So it was kind of problematic, and TRE really helped her calm down and feel more present. So for her, that was the main thing. She felt present, not always joyful or often sad, but she could feel present with TRE. So she practiced at home. Then I tell my clients to do whatever they feel it's interesting for them. I see there's a pattern in the beginning. They practice a lot more, and then with time, as they feel better, they practice less and less. And depending on the person, so some people, they can actually have a practice and on their own, but it's not often. So when I do it to practice just a shorter period of time, that can be just 3 minutes a day, but try to do a little bit every day. For example, before sleeping, tremor a little and then move on to sleep. Because it worked for me. So often I give my example and let people choose. So this boy in particular, I don't think he kept doing TRE on his own. His mother, sometimes she tremors, but it comes naturally. She lets the tremors go on, but she doesn't do it like a regular practice, I think.
Shelley also asks, did they always tremor on their back or sitting in a chair, or did you also do standing up tremoring with them?
Okay. So did he continue to do TRE? Okay, Daniela, I will answer your question after. Okay, Shelley, I'm starting with the first question. How often did some of your clients tremor on their own?
We did already answer these questions. I did read them previously.
Yeah, so I often one session per week, most of the times. I had a young client, we did 2 sessions per week, and I did this before going on holidays, doing 2 sessions per week, and sometimes even 3, with very good results. So I realized that perhaps it would be interesting to do, for example, 4 to 6 sessions in 2 weeks. And this can be interesting. It can have interesting results. But I'm always trying different things. So that's my thing. Let's see if it works. And I have people that come to me that are very open to try different approaches. So that's what I do. I tend to make people tremor on their back because it's easy. Sitting in a chair, I tend to avoid because people, they sit so much, they don't need to sit more. So I try to avoid sitting as much as possible. Standing up, not often because of balance. So I end up doing everything on the floor, not necessarily laying on their back. So because I'm a yoga teacher, sometimes I use different yoga poses. But I like to do it in a mat on the floor for security reasons.
Thank you. That's wonderful. Thanks for answering the questions. And I saw another question, and so just maybe I'll just ask that too. Do you do the exercises before the tremoring?
In the first session, always.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if this is something I should be sharing like publicly. It depends. Not always. No, not always. And I adapt. So sometimes I have people that, for example, clients, overweight clients, with them I have to adapt. And sometimes I just don't do the exercises. I go directly on the floor and that's all.
Yeah,
Thank you.
it's not a secret that we can do it different ways.
Sorry?
It's not a secret that we can do it different ways, and it's what we're trying to teach also in the training is that we can access tremors in different ways, different positions with the exercises, or adapt to different needs and so on of different people and situations.
But the exercises, I use them, for example, with people that spend a long time sitting. So I have lots of clients that spend the whole day sitting in front of a computer. So these people, yeah, they do the exercises. And sometimes I stretch the exercises in a yogic form, so they can move a little differently from what they do every day. So the exercises can be really good as well, and I really like them, but it really depends from one person to the other, from as everything. So Daniela's questions: how can support accessing emotions during TRE? What could be good questions or interventions for this? Daniela, can I ask you to develop this a little bit? I'm not sure I understand.
Well, if I have the feeling during a session that there is some kind of emotional issue or some emotional aspect involved, and I would like to know more about it for myself when I tremor, but also with another person. So sometimes I wonder, because the tremoring itself is very it seems to be helpful anyway, even if it's just kept on a physical level. But if I want to take it to the next level, so access the emotion or feel the emotion as well.
So I don't know. So basically what I learned from Hans during the training and then with my practice sessions and so on, as long as you feel safe, all is good. Meaning, for example, I had a session with Hans that was very life-changing. And Hans was like, okay, so you are having this and that, and perhaps you could explore a little. And I didn't want to explore. And then Hans asked me, do you feel safe? Yeah, I do feel safe. So go ahead and explore. And I explored, and it was very, very helpful. I had a lot of release. So basically, if you feel safe, if it's tolerable, I would let it go until it's processed. Am I making sense?
I mean, if I feel like there is something below the physical level, but I don't really know how to access that. It's like the emotion is not coming out, or I don't have a connect. I'm not able to access it. I'm not able to make a connection with this emotional aspect of it.
Are you talking about the emotion or some kind of memory associated with this emotion?
Both.
So the memory, it can be explicit and then it might come, or it can be implicit and then it's in the body. So it's not that you are going to remember it. So trauma, it's not it gets stocked in the body. So it's in the body, okay? And sometimes you have the emotion, you have some kind of physical something physical that shows up, but you won't remember something. So what happened with me during emotional release is that I let the emotion release, so that I let the emotion go on. So for example, if I'm feeling sad, and if I feel like crying, I'll just cry until it stops on its own. If I feel like, if I'm very angry and I feel that somehow a noise, meaning like a scream, will come up, I'll just let it come out. And then it comes out and it's processed, but I don't know where it came from necessarily, and I don't necessarily know what happened there. I just know that there was a release and then a block disappears. I don't know if I'm making sense. So, but this is what I do. So if there is some kind of memory coming up with the emotion, you can explore and see how it feels. As long as the person feels safe or you feel safe, all is good. If a memory doesn't come up, you just process whatever it's going on in the body and as an emotion. I don't know if this answered your question, or Hans, if you'd like to add something.
Yeah, I think it's a great answer, especially for situations where the emotion actually flows a little bit more and is more accessible. But if the emotion is more stuck or more frozen in the body, quite many will feel that it's not flowing as easily. And they might feel like they're really sort of the emotion or sound or whatever is very held tightly in the body and hard to access or to allow it to flow. So it's more of a technical question, you could say, that Daniela is asking here, which would be easier to explore in a sort of practical oriented session. But we can briefly say that if there are blocks, we can explore the blocks and we can do different interventions to see if we can support it to be more open. Also, we can be patient and just say that it's a gradual process where these blocks or levels of freeze gradually will open up. And for some, it happens sort of sooner. For others, it takes a bit more time. And yeah, there are different paths, you could say, to accessing the emotions, and it will take different amount of time as well for different clients, or maybe for different emotions as well. So someone might be very comfortable or safe with things like crying or feeling sad and things like that, but maybe for anger, it might be more blocked and inhibited. So yeah, it differs quite a lot there. So I think it's easier to actually answer this in a more practically oriented workshop where we focus on this topic more in particular. So it's a little bit outside of the scope of this particular talk. Okay, but it's a great question anyway. So okay, were there more questions?
Oh, there's Mike. How necessary are the pre-tremor exercises?
I think Shelley asked it already, so.
Yeah, but so there's one thing I'd like to add. Sometimes tremors they come very easily, sometimes not. When not, then the exercises are very helpful. And if this can be done multiple times a day, it depends. It's a question of self-regulation. So when I started tremoring, it was for a physical problem. Like I twisted an ankle many years ago and I had chronic pain. And then a friend of mine that is also a Hans student had great, like this very awesome result with TRE. And I decided, okay, let me try. And I tried, and I started in the morning with videos from Richmond, and I wasn't having a hard time tremoring, so it was just lifting the knees and going up and down with the knees, and it took me a long time to start tremoring. This was in the morning, but I found it very funny when it started, and I was like, oh my God, it's so interesting. So I kept going the whole day, and I tremored the whole day, and by the evening, and I was huge movements, totally different from the morning, and sometimes I tremor more than once in a day. It depends. If you feel safe, if you feel good, why not? If you somehow find it you are tired or some emotions come up and it's not really understandable, so perhaps manage it differently. So yeah, again, it depends from one person to the other. Then there's another. Okay, hey, Marie, I'm looking at your question and about your clients that get overwhelmed only the next day. Could you develop a little on this overwhelm, please? I'm not sure if I
Yes.
Oh,
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yeah. I'm talking about people who do TRE and they find it very relieving. They get a lot of release from it while they do it, and they have huge movements.
Mm-hmm.
But 1 or 2 days later, they have emotional problems or they feel tired, they feel overwhelmed. And it only comes 1 or 2 days later. So they get very insecure about how to regulate this because the bad reaction comes only 2 days afterwards.
So a little bit like when you do sports and you are sore 2 days later.
Okay.
Okay, so
it's about regulating.
let me think in with this example. So you do exercise. So it's my case today. Today I'm sore because I exercise too much. So I'm very happy with it, but I feel it. Why do I feel it? Because well, I didn't move for 2 weeks, and then I moved too much, and then today it hurts. So perhaps that there is too much release in, or it's too intense perhaps in the session, and then it's too much, and then there's some kind of floating that only shows up later, perhaps. I would so if the tremoring it's too intense during the session, perhaps reduce it a little, so make it less intense and see what happens. I don't know if
it's about trying and experiencing.
Exactly.
And finding the right amount. I have one lady and she's neurodiverse, and she said she's come to the point when she realized that once a week is okay for her and everything else is too much.
Mm-hmm. So that's great. That's really good.
Mm-hmm.
If she realized that on her own. So
yeah,
that's the important thing.
Mm.
That's that she understood and that she listened to her body basically, and once it's okay for her.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
I would like to add something here as well, because I also think it's important to consider how we use this word overwhelm and define it a little bit more specifically. Because, it's often used in the trauma world or community for almost anything that is uncomfortable or not feeling at ease or good. So personally, I only use this word for situations where the person feels clearly unsafe with what is happening, and actually quite unsafe, and so it's not enough just to feel uncomfortable, and so on. So it's perfectly possible to feel uncomfortable or to have emotions coming up or different symptoms like, let's say, a headache or anything, and feel safe and not be, it can be they have questions, or they have, of course, it's uncomfortable or sometimes even disturbing, but it's not unsafe. And quite often it's not even unfamiliar for people. So then I don't use the word overwhelm. But we can also talk about unpleasant temporary effects, you could say. And I think as we work with the body in a very deep way with theory, I think it's a little bit too much to expect that it always should be just comfortable and pleasant, and that there shouldn't be any, we could say, unpleasant or sometimes even somewhat painful short-term effects. So I consider anything that is less than 3 days short-term and quite normal, actually, as well. And so what sometimes we see is that there are maybe someone feels tired, or they might have some headache or something else showing up after. It can be some hour, maybe it lasts for some hours, maybe 1-2 days. And then there's like a lift or something. Now, wow, I feel like something has opened up. Sometimes you have also something lasting longer than this, but it's also then also important to consider the trauma history and to see if it somehow makes sense to them, what is happening. So one thing also which is important is over a series of sessions is to help clients sort of keep track of what is happening. So from one session to the next, I always start a session with asking about what happened after the last session, exploring any of these uncomfortable effects, making sense of them, seeing if they are short-term or longer-term, or whether the person, how it affects the person. So we want to, of course, make sure to not have any or sort of very long-term or more serious effects, which are much sort of these sort of short-term unpleasant effects are for sure not uncommon. I wouldn't always say that they are because we did too much. They can happen if you do little also. For some, it can also be when the body needs to do something bigger and more intense, and it's somehow not happening. So I would say that these short-term unpleasant effects are naturally occurring process effects of deep and effective body-oriented trauma therapy or processes. And if we so try to reduce them too much, we might also reduce the effectiveness of the work over time. But of course, it's important to help or to keep track of it, to be transparent. And I also talk with clients about this before we start. We keep track of what is happening, and ideally we want over time these effects to be less as their capacity to deal with it and to be in the process increase.
I'd like
also that we adjust and adapt the process. For instance, to doing it once a week, or to see how often and how much.
There's something I'd like to add. So I noticed this more, not necessarily with TRE. I noticed when I did my first family constellations training, So I would do the training, and we would do sessions between each other and so on. And the next day, I would often feel sad, angry. So I wouldn't be okay. So I would move from like the regular state, everyday state, to a state where I would feel angry or sad, sometimes very, very sad. And then after, I would be much better. And what I noticed also is that my productivity level would increase a lot, like 2 or 3 days after. And now I notice this with more things. So I noticed, I really noticed at that moment, and then now I notice more with different things, TRE also. So what happens with trauma and with all these ways that we have to treat trauma and to deal with trauma is that sometimes it's not overwhelming, sometimes it's just processing. So we process something during a TRE session, but then for the next, let's say, 72 hours, so the 3 days after, many things can occur. And sometimes we feel better, but sometimes before we feel better, we feel worse. And I do feel it a lot. And what I notice nowadays with myself is that sometimes there is something that makes me angry or sad, some kind of event that has nothing to do. I get really sometimes very frustrated. Then I notice what happens in my body and so on. And then, well, I wait for it to go away. And often this is a sign. Now I know that the next day something is unblocked, and I will have like this huge moment of insight or find a solution to a problem. But I have this boiling thing going on, and then it goes away. And when it goes away, then often it's like find a solution or increased productivity. So this is what happens with me. And perhaps it's something related to this. So there's something that is processed in the body during the TRE session. The person feels relief because it comes with the practice. And then there is this unpleasant moment before it goes better. I don't know if this makes sense, but this is something you can ask your client, and it's a great self-regulation exercise.
Right.
I hope it helped. So there is one more question from Pat. Again, overwhelming emotional outbursts or being frozen or even dissociated when tremoring. So these overwhelming emotional outbursts, well, sometimes it's the body processing. So this is one of those cases. If the person feels safe, I let it go. I didn't do this always, especially in the beginning, because I didn't feel I didn't feel safe letting the person go through all of that. But now I know that sometimes we just have to let it go like that, and there will be like a huge release sometimes that seems like an emotional outburst or something that it's not good, but often what happens after it's very positive, and there's a lot of release, even if it's kind of very cathartic. However, dissociation, I don't let it happen. So if the person, it can happen, and if I notice the person is dissociating, then I bring her back. Hans, I don't know if you want to say something about this.
Yeah, I can add something there. So for both the question of Heidi Maria and Pater. So what in general is very important when we do TRE is to also work with grounding, stabilizing, resourcing, and so on. And I always teach this before we do TRE, both with groups and clients and in the training, we always start with the grounding, resourcing, and so on. And the purpose of that is several purposes, partly to connect with the body and so on, but also to help the person enter into the process and be able to be with emotions and the intensity that might show up while being safe and connected in the present, and knowing how to navigate into the intensity, but also out of it again. Of course, and to have this idea of how do we go into it, how do we come out of it. Of course, it's very important to feel safe, and then depending on the person, we can do smaller pieces at a time, and then maybe after a while they can manage bigger pieces of emotional release. And then also, of course, to actually check, as Raquel mentioned, to check with the person how their own sense of what is happening is, and whether the person, him or herself, feels safe with what is happening. So it's not the interpretation of me or someone else as the instructor or therapist that decides for the client whether they are overwhelmed or not, or whether they feel safe or not. So it's very important what Raquel mentioned, that she could then separate between herself as the instructor feeling not safe with the emotional release of the client, and separating those two things. Because if I, as the instructor, is not feeling safe and then transfers that onto the client, of course, this is not good. But it's also, of course, very important to know one's own limits as the instructor or the therapist, and say that, okay, I prefer that we now stop and do grounding and stabilize, but say it's because of me, not because of that you were overwhelmed. Because the person quite often is not overwhelmed inside the intensity. And so this is something about also communicating with the client throughout the session about the experience, their level of safety with what is happening. And for most feel very, very safe inside what looks very intense on the outside. So it's something that is quite remarkable, I think, about TRE, how intense it can look on the outside compared to how safe it can feel on the inside. It's possible to, I mean, it's the experience can be one of almost remarkable sense of safety and calm inside something that is outsidely looking like a super intense release. So and sometimes we meet clients who have been to other trauma therapies or other methods where they are not allowed to continue into their own process and their own release, and is sort of stopped by the therapist who tell them that they are overwhelmed while they actually don't feel overwhelmed, and that can also be problematic, you could say, in itself. Raquel, please.
Yeah, so there's something else I would like to add. So here we are talking about neurodiversity, and even if sometimes neurodivergent, even if sometimes neurodivergency issues and challenges can have a parallel with trauma, it's not always the case. Sometimes it's just the way people function, meaning that a TRE session for a person that comes with stress from sensory overload, it's not necessarily the same thing as someone that comes with trauma. It's PTSD or complex PTSD. So it's different. And this kind of, let's call, I know, Hans, you don't like the word, but this overwhelming that might occur, let's call it flooding. This flooding and so on, or dissociation, it's not going to happen necessarily in a session for a neurodivergent person. I don't know if I'm making sense, but it's not like it's not the level of sensitivity for someone that it's neurodivergent. The sensitivity for a neurodivergent person is not necessarily the same as for a traumatized person, if I'm making sense with this. So for me as neurodivergent, I need a kind of sensibility that it's not necessarily the same that we are going to use with someone with trauma. And sometimes the way we, the specific way we used to speak in a trauma sensitive manner, it can actually irritate and annoy someone that is neurodivergent, because it's not the same. It can be very similar, but it's not necessarily the same. And the same happens with TRE. So it's different. So a lot of the questions here for me are related more to trauma than to neurodiversity in itself. So I just wanted to say this, that so it can be tackled differently.
That's a great clarification, I think. So I would like to add that, as you mentioned now, many of these questions are more in general focused on trauma. So for those who want to learn more, who are already practitioners or TRE instructors, to learn more about this type of questions that you have, I would recommend the supervision group, where that's where we actually go more in depth into these questions and practice as well. So also for those who are not providers, or also for those who are providers, who will just like to do more theory and get more individualized input on these questions, there will also be a weekly group happening after New Year. So those are some options to explore these topics more. I will also like to mention that with dissociation, we can also explore and stay with the dissociation and explore what is happening in the body, what is happening sort of in the mind, you can say, as the dissociation happens. Dissociation is not, you could say, particularly difficult, really, or not overwhelming. I think it's for most people who dissociate, it feels safe to dissociate. So to stay with and explore the dissociation.
Okay. But when I say dissociation, it's when the person is not there anymore.
Yeah, so completely.
So,
yeah,
but it's like also, not present, and
yeah, but it can also be sort of, okay, what happens in that moment where everything goes away? What happens sort of initially? What did you notice in the body before that happened? And then we can tremor with it and sort of work, because there is some activation coming up that the body and the mind responds with the dissociation. There is something happening that the response or the sort of the body or the brain is that pattern. So yeah, okay. I think we are now on quite a lot of overtime, because there were so many questions and a lot of enthusiasm in the group for this topic. So I think we will move to an end for now. So I would like to thank you very much, Raquel, for giving this talk. It was really interesting and useful. Also, I want to thank everyone who showed up to participate and to share and ask questions and so on. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much for
See you
inviting
again,
me, and thank
on
you all
other
for
talks.
coming.
Well,
Bye-bye. Thank you.
bye-bye.